August 10th, 2023 Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Long? Ms. Greenwell?
Here.
Mr. Kleiner?
Here.
Any conflict of interest statements?
No, ma'am.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting for August 3rd, 2023.
I recommend approval of the minutes from August 3rd.
And I concur. Bid openings, I see none. Matters from other department heads or their representatives? Correspondence. Letter A, correspondence received from Dean Button, Capital Improvements Board, requesting $57,500 of CIB funding to be allocated for the Marquette Greenway Kennedy Decline right-of-way project and corresponding agreement submitted for approval.
Good morning to the board.
Morning.
So, as the board knows, we have a trail project as part of the Marquette Greenway. It's north of the Indiana Toll Road between Kennedy and Klein. As part of that process, or through that work, we need to do the engineering for the right-of-way. So we define what the right-of-way limits are, and then we eventually go to buying, which really we expect a donation between the property owners, which is the Shirley Hines Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy. But we have to go through this process, part of the NERC or NDOT federal, using federal money. So we'd ask for your approval on this section.
Okay, and I will add that this has been assigned by the mayor and the city controller.
Okay, I recommend approval of the Capital Improvement Board's request.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter B, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $179,612.48 of CIB funding to be allocated for the shortfall of the Little Calumet River Trail pedestrian bridge project submitted for approval.
Monday, the Capital Improvements Board met and approved a shortfall in funding for the purpose of paying the current invoice on this project. We're doing this as a temporary so-called loan from CIB until a suitable source of funding can be found. We're sort of putting together an American Rescue Plan Act package for the remaining funds, and we hope that this and the balance of this project be funded through that mechanism, but that hasn't been approved by council. It hasn't been presented to council.
There's been no agreement on that yet, so I don't want it to make it sound like it's, we're in the preliminary stages of internal discussions on that, and that's really not for, at this point, we just want this request to be approved.
Okay. I recommend approval of the request.
And I'll note that it's been signed by the city controller and the mayor. Letter C, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $221,575.55 of CIB funding to be allocated for invoice number 4 of the downtown Russell Street pedestrian tunnel project.
The city of Hammond committed approximately $1 million to accommodate the downtown Hammond station. This is an invoice progress payment for that. And so this was approved Monday night by the Capital Improvements Board. Ask for your approval.
I'll add that it's been signed by the mayor and the city controller.
I recommend approval of the request.
I concur. Letter E, correspondence received from Enviro Forensics recommending the award for the transportation and disposal contract for the 2023 removal and replacement of lead-impacted soil environmental remediation project be awarded to Republic Services Newton County Landfill, who was the low, responsive, and responsible bidder in the amount of $136,672.80.
So this is Phase 3, landfill disposal of the lead-impacted soils in Robertsdale. This is a budget amount that's been set aside, so we're asking for your approval of both the agreement and the funding. The funding's been approved through money that's been set aside by the American Rescue Plan Act prior. And just for the record, if you, after this action, if you could go back and look at the previous action.
D.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend approval of the request.
I concur.
Could you look at D, please?
Yeah. recommend approval. I'll recommend approval of that request also. That's the signature page you're talking about, right, Mr. Butler?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. This is for Chicago Street Phase, well, it's multi-phases. It's to extend the contract date limits. It's no cost to the city, but we're asking for President Long's signature to be ratified as signed June the 7th. So appreciate
I
that.
skipped
Thank
this.
you. Thank you.
Correct?
Yep,
Okay.
I recommend approval.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right?
Letter F, correspondence received from William Short, Chief of Police, requesting the approval for Correctional Officer Trayvon McCullough to receive the promotional raise effective August 2nd, 2023.
I recommend approve Chief Short's request.
And I concur. Letter G, correspondence received from Brian Miller, Director of Public Safety, Purdue University Northwest, requesting approval to have some outdoor music for their move-in activities on August 16th through August 20th, 2023, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., and on August 18th, 2023, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m.
I recommend approval of Mr. Miller's request.
And the cutoff time at 10 is up.
Yeah.
And I concur. Letter H, correspondence received from Brian Miller, Director of Public Safety, Purdue University Northwest, requesting to lift the residential-only parking restrictions on September 9th, 2023, for their annual Fall Sports Festival at Dowling Park. The streets to be affected are the 73 and 7400 blocks of Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, and Colorado. P&W Police will cover the signs prior and remove them after the event. Additionally, requesting that cars be allowed to park on J.F. Mahoney Drive. Flyers to all residents affected will be delivered, and P&W Police will monitor this event. Evan? Okay.
Yeah, I think that covers it. I just want to make sure that the information gets forwarded to the PD and the EMA.
I'll recommend approval of the request and to send that to the police department and EMA.
And I concur. Correspondence received from Reith Riley Construction requesting lane restriction on Monday, August 14th, 2023, for Columbia Avenue at Summer Street for the Summer Street Rebuild Project, and requesting the closure of Columbia and Summer intersection from August 28th, 2023 through October 26th, 2023, to begin the Phase 1B of the Summer Street rebuild with detour route.
So the first half of this is the lane restriction for the northbound left-hand lane that's currently has restrictions to the south of this as it relates to a sanitary district repair that had been completed and is now waiting for Norfolk Southern to come through and finish their track rebuild. So they're extending that lane restriction north through Summer Street in order to dig up the water main, measure the outside of the water main to make sure they got a good measurement for the work that they need to do in the future. So they're just extending that, the length of that, in terms of distance, the length of that lane restriction for the 14th. Should be quick turnaround. Second half of this is the complete closure of the intersection for 2 months. This was written into the specification as part of the project, recognizing that there's a big concern about closing the entire intersection. But what they have to do is a significant amount of water main relocation and a sewer that crosses the entire intersection. And so the detour route shown is Calumet Avenue. Certainly, advanced warning will be installed at least a week prior to the requested closure, and the detour is Calumet Avenue. I'll take any questions.
You think that's enough time for the major intersection, because it's a 5-way?
So the contract specified that they could have 60 days to complete the work, and so the contractor recognizes what the need is to do that. Obviously, there's always unknowns as we deal with underground work, but we expect them to meet the schedule and be completed on the October 26th date.
So I think the question that, I guess that we have, or that I have, is Dean, has the coordination with the closure of Columbia been looked at in conjunction with other closures that are happening in and around the city and its impact on travel from a north-south perspective through the city? In other words, like, I know that Hammond Avenue is closed at Michigan currently. Will the Hammond Avenue, Michigan closure be over by the time this starts? Calumet was closed at Chicago for a while, but that's gone. So I just want to make sure that, because I know that there's been shift in other things around the city, including the Norfolk Southern closures, has that been taken into consideration? And if it hasn't, obviously, please do so. If it has, are you comfortable that north-south traffic won't be significantly impaired at any time during this closure?
The short answer is yes. We've looked at that. We know that Norfolk Southern is coming through. They should be through Hammond before August 28th. They have already upgraded their crossings at Calumet and Indianapolis Boulevard, which would be the natural locations to cross when Columbia is closed on a north-south. Holman Avenue will be completed before August 28th. They have had problems with some underground utility disruptions, and so that project's going to go longer than we expected, and they're making arrangements now to accommodate their extended closure, and we'll come back to the board and ask for more time with regard to that extension, which we should be doing today. But that won't affect the current condition, right, where the plan is to close this intersection and no other closures have been brought forth to us during this time period.
Okay. And you said notification will go out a week prior to this?
There'll be advanced
Okay.
warning placed at all approaches to the intersection, notifying the motoring public that it will be closed.
Okay.
I didn't look at that closely, just so I'm aware that southbound, I take it's going to be closed at Michigan, sir?
Southbound will be closed before the bridge, right?
Okay, that's right,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
All right, I recommend approval of the request.
And I concur.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Letter J, correspondence received from resident Lori Suzlow requesting to hold a block party on September 20th, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. and block off Forest Avenue between approximately 7123 and 7045. They are anticipating approximately 125 residents participating, submitted signatures of the neighbors directly impacted, and requesting picnic tables.
No, we don't. No, we don't handle that. But I'll recommend that we send it to Public Works for the public.
The only thing I was going to mention was the picnic tables generally come through a request of the Parks Department.
Okay,
So I would ask Linda to contact the resident and have them do an application through Parks.
okay, for the picnic table,
Because
sir?
there's a cost involved.
Okay.
Delivery.
Okay. Yeah. So I recommend the approval of the request and then to send this to Public Works and the Park Board, both? For the-
Park, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I-
Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
concur. Letter K, correspondence received from Dean Button advising that after receiving 4 proposals for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, the engineering department recommends approving negotiating with American Structure Point to contract for the work.
In July, this board had approved a solicitation for our Safe Streets and Roads for All grants, a $100,000 project. $80,000 is funded by the U.S. Department of Transportation. We received 4 proposals, and American Structure Point's proposal was outstanding with regard to not only the meeting the requirements of the grant, but also that they have dedicated an individual for public involvement, which is key to this project. And the project needs to be completed by the end of May of next year. As part of the process going through Federal Highway, we needed to do this solicitation and make this recommendation and move forward to negotiation. So we'd ask for your approval to negotiate with American Structure Point. John Kennedy is here in person if there are any questions related to the proposal.
Kevin, are you okay?
The question I had for this, Dean, was the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. Is that a state grant or
No,
is it
sir.
federal?
Federal, U.S. Department of Transportation.
And this was posted on the city website, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm good.
Okay, I recommend approval of the request.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 8, matters from board members. Okay. 9, new business. Letter A, agreement with NCIC Inmate Communications and the Hammond Police Department submitted for approval.
Good morning to the board. This is a request from Captain McKechnie over at the jail. We've been dealing with NCIC for years. The only modification I request on this was to remove the automatic renewal, and so now the contract goes from month to month after the initial term, which I'm fine with, and I would recommend its approval as presented. This is for inmate calls from the jail.
Oh.
They manage the inmate calls from the jail.
Okay. I recommend approval.
And I concur. Letter B, agreement to rehabilitate property located at 30 Warren Street submitted for approval.
This was requested by Mr. Luter, I believe. Is anybody here from 31?
I just met with them downstairs.
Okay. As long as it's signed by the owner, then we may proceed. I believe there should be a date, Madam Chair, Madam President, on the top sheet, the first sheet, at the very top on the title.
First.
If we could
December 1st.
please have a status at some point right before that.
November the 30th, a good date for you?
Is Thanksgiving or no?
It's the week after.
Is it a week? Okay.
It's the weekend.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I recommend approval and set a status date to November 30th, 2023.
I concur.
November 30.
Letter C, order to rescind and release order to demolish property located at 4137 Dearborn Avenue, submitted for approval.
Mr. Luter reported that he would request that this be before the board. I believe it was rehab, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been rehabbed to his satisfaction, so I'd request its approval.
I recommend approval of the request.
I concur. Letter D, order to rescind and release order to demolish property located at 7944 Bertram Avenue, the garage, submitted for approval.
I want to thank Mr. Luter for reminding me that this had not been done. This was before the board in November. It was repaired, and I believe it is completed.
Yes,
Yeah, it was just-
that garage is completed.
Yep.
And for clarification, 4137 Dearborn was torn down several years ago. I don't know why the order still stood.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
It didn't sound familiar.
just want to report to the board that 4137 Dearborn was demolished, but now I remember what happened. They recently sold the property, and there was payment made, and that's why we asked for the order to rescind. So my apologies on that one.
Okay.
7944 Bertram, this one slipped through the cracks. It was in before the board in November, and it has been repaired, and we would request the order to rescind be approved as presented.
I recommend approval.
I concur. Letter E, resolution and intergovernmental agreement with the Hammond Redevelopment Commission to transfer property located at 5605 Alice, submitted for approval.
This is part of the Jacob Square project. We'd request its approval as presented. There's no consideration involved. It's pursuant to the intergovernmental transfer statute between governmental entities.
I recommend approval of the request.
I concur. Letter F, right-of-way permits, there's 13, received from engineering, submitted for approval.
Good morning.
Busy.
Morning.
So this is the most requests we had in a week before,
Oh,
13,
this
so
one,
we hit a record. But anyways, 12 of them are NIPSCO, just pole replacement, equipment replacement throughout various locations throughout the city, and one being a driveway apron slash curb cut. So I would recommend approval of these, the driveways on Columbia Avenue.
I recommend approval of all the 13 requests for the engineering.
I concur.
Thank you.
Letter G, garage sale permit, submitted for approval.
We have several.
One,
Yeah. That's separate. All right, we're going to approve all the requests except for 421, 165th.
I've reviewed the permit requests. Is anyone here on that request, 421 165th, for a garage sale? Okay. The issue with that permit is it was not submitted by the owner of the property, and that's the requirement, so that's why it's being rejected, not because 421 165th has had a garage sale. So if the owner resubmits, we'll take a look at it. But at this point, because it was not the owner that submitted it, the ordinance requires the owner. It's the law department's request that that permit request be rejected.
Yep,
Okay.
sorry.
Can you do it?
I recommend the request, all of them except for 421 165th.
I concur. Business license waiver hearing, Little Sunflowers Daycare.
I was coming to see if they can lower it down, the price, because we're not open for the daycare, and they're charging for the new license approval, but we're not open yet. So we didn't have the business license for the daycare till now. They just gave it to us the 2nd of July.
So it appears the property address, 6832 Maryland Avenue, correct? Is that the address where you guys are operating out of?
Yeah.
And that's your home address, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So there was an initial license approved in January of this year, January 31st, 2023. It expired June 30th, and they did not renew the business license within the 30-day requirement, and therefore that's probably why they were assessed a late fee when they attempted to renew after July 30th of this year. So this is the first license they held was issued previously. It would be it's basically the license for 2023 to 24 is what the late fee is applied to.
So this was previously licensed, as you said, in
Correct.
years past, so it was functioning as a daycare at that time.
Correct, yes, it was approved as a Little Sunflower Daycare at 6832 Maryland. So they were licensed from January to June of this year, at which point it expired and did not get renewed within 30 days.
And ma'am, could you say one more time, why were you late renewing?
It's because when I went downstairs to ask for what do I needed to renew, they didn't say specifically what I needed till like the end of July, and they say I needed a business license, which I didn't have because we're not open yet. So I asked the person who's in charge of the daycare, and she was on vacation, so she told me, yes, I needed that, so then she gave it to me, and I received that on the 2nd of July. So I do now have the business license, but now it's late for the renewal.
I think it may be confusing with the state certification.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, I was
okay, that's
just
what I
gonna
was
ask this,
wondering,
yeah.
okay.
So like the state of Indiana certifies daycare separately from us, and they'll only give you that certification once you obtain a business license from the city in which you're operating.
Right.
So, I assume as long as she renews each year on time, I mean, I would imagine,
Did you have your state license when you came in the last time?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
it
So-
was for new opening,
but
but
when did you actually get it? What's the date on your license from the state?
it's 2nd of July.
July
This is the
2nd,
second.
2023.
Yeah.
So I
There's
know
gotta
the
be-
state passed a statute in 2018-19 that required daycare operations to either obtain a city-issued business license
Right.
or obtain written exemption from having to obtain a license. So
Right.
we're the first stop, before they
Okay.
can get that city or that state certification.
Nick, you have any recommendations, or?
Seeing as it appears to be her first time being late, and they did renew, or they did obtain a license for 2023 with the date change, with it only being valid for 6 months, I'm okay with waiving it this first time, as long as she understands that if she is late again in the future, most likely will not receive that courtesy.
Okay, ma'am, you understand that if we waive it, you're gonna have to pay on time moving forward. If you come back, we will institute the late fee.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay. All right, I recommend that we waive the late fee for Little Sunflower Daycare.
I concur.
Thank you.
But you'll still have to pay the 105.
Yeah, still
Just
gotta
let you
pay
know.
for your
Okay,
license.
thank you.
Letter I, funding allocation request form received requesting $1,850 from 6th District Gaming Fund to be allocated for the installation of a wooden pole for video monitoring of NSRR on Grand Avenue.
Thank you. Our engineering department requested Councilman Rakos to fund the installation of a wooden pole at Grand, south of the Norfolk Southern Railroad track for video monitoring. Councilman Rakos has kindly agreed to fund that since it's in his district.
Okay.
Ask for your approval. Thank you.
It's been signed by the mayor and the city controller.
Okay. I'll recommend we approve the 6th District Councilman's request.
I concur. Number 10, old business, see-click fix status, stop signs, Cleveland.
Intersection is being studied. At my request to Public Works, I asked for temporary stop signs to be installed on Cleveland, the east and westbound legs. I would ask the board to approve temporary stop signs for 90 days at this location to continue with our study at this location. Thank you.
I recommend approval of stop signs for 90 days temporary.
I concur.
Thank you.
Letter B, see-clicks fix status, four-way stop at 120th and Atchison.
Resident complained about the intersection itself. During Pierogi Fest, there was an accident that occurred because people were parking too close to the intersection at the curb radius, so I've asked Public Works to mark the curbs and no parking here to corner to keep the intersection clear for visibility, but at this point, it doesn't warrant a stop sign. So it's been referred to Public Works for implementation of pavement markings and signs.
All right, I recommend we send this to Public Works for marking of the pavement
I
and
con-
curbs.
I concur.
Thank you.
Letter C, status for 1806 Brown.
Good morning to the board. I know that the owner's here. We've been in email communication. And I'm curious to hear kind of his preference on how to proceed because the board the city would like to work with him, but we just don't know which direction he's going. I know that the status of the condition of the property hasn't changed much. It still is under a demo order. And we continue to get complaints, but of course, we want to hopefully have a successful conclusion to this. So I'll turn it over to the owner, and then I think Mr. Luter or Mr. Farrell may update the board as well. Good morning.
Good morning to the board.
Morning.
Since we last spoke about a month ago, I had a chance to speak to Thomas Novak, who gave me some good information about obtaining ordinance variance on the zoning variance. And in order to apply for zoning variance, a blueprint or a proposed building plan has to be provided. And we are currently in the process of obtaining a couple bids. So we've just requested for another 30 days in order for us to complete that. And then once we have that exact bid, estimate for the project, we can then decide if we're going to proceed with the rehab or proceed with the demo.
Okay, so I didn't catch the last part. I think what I heard was they're thinking about a variance, which I assume means they're looking at going from single family to multi.
No, I'm sorry. Because the property line is less than 50 feet.
The rebuild.
A rebuild,
Yeah,
a rebuild
okay,
on the
got it.
existing foundation, it would require a zoning variance, and I have all the information as what we need to do in order to obtain the variance. We just need a little bit more time to complete the estimates.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what kind of variance you're looking for. I did have a discussion with the city planner regarding that. And are you still thinking about potentially keeping the foundation?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's going to also, of course, require a variance because you're going to be 75%, right, Nick? 75%
Right,
of the
that's the variance.
Okay.
That's the reason for the variance. And honestly, I think what's going to happen is builders are going to come and inspect the property and do their homework, and then they're going to say whether we can even build on the foundation or not, and then provide an estimate for that. So we just need, we have a seasonal business, and that's kind of starting to slow down, so now we can really focus on this. So I just need another 30 days maybe to,
So it sounds like there's a potential that it may be demolished, right? Depending on what your builder's saying, there's a
Correct.
potential that, there's a less potential that it may get rebuilt given the current condition of the property. Like, you think most likely it's going to get knocked down and rebuilt?
no,
Is
I
that-
think what's going to happen is most likely, I mean, it's going to get knocked down either way, whether it gets knocked down to the foundation and rebuilt or buried and covered, that's what we're waiting
Gotcha.
to see
Okay,
for the
so
estimate.
Most likely it's coming down.
Our ideal is we would like to rehab and rebuild the property
Got it, great.
and turn it into a rental.
Bill, do
That's,
you have anything else to
Yeah,
add?
I guess my request would be, due to the amount of complaints we still receive from Mr. Dobers, I do have that information
Right.
in my office, I just didn't bring it up, is zoning variances with the BZA only meeting once a quarter. This could take 8 months to a year. I'm not opposed to the foundation remaining, because I think we're both in agreement that the actual rehabilitation of the existing structure isn't going to happen. It's either going to be reuse the foundation
but it
and
also might.
basement.
I mean, I won't know until, I mean, we're assuming that it won't, and I really won't know until, professionals give me a full estimate and all the proposed plans. And we really haven't had this property for a long time. I know that the neighbors have been complaining, but that was before our time, and they're going to continue to complain. The property is on the demo list for a reason, and obviously, there's going to be complaints from the neighbors. We're doing our best to upkeep the property. Any complaints that I receive, I'll gladly handle them. However, other than the lawn being overgrown, which we mowed, obviously, we haven't received any specifics on those, so we can't really resolve anything that we haven't received information on.
Is everything boarded up? Are we currently boarded up?
The large hole in the back is still there, but
Take
in
care
all
of it this
honesty,
weekend.
if you can find something to attach to, great.
Not a
I'm not
problem.
sure it'll function, but
It's not a problem.
again, I'm not 100% sure that the current structure will be able to be rehabilitated. It may become a financial burden, which
We're just
you'll
asking for
eventually
30
find.
days.
It sounds like what he's saying, the owner's saying is that that in 30 days, he's going to have an answer
Yes.
as to whether or not it's going to be knocked down. Not whether it's going to be knocked down, but whether they're going to keep the foundation or demo the foundation as well. That's what I'm hearing. So if that's the case, I would not object to the 30 days, but I would just let Mr. Dobers know that if we don't have that answer at the next hearing, and there isn't a plan to demolish the property at that point, either, you're telling us with foundation or without foundation, then the city's going to request to proceed with the demo. But I'm happy to give him 30 days. I think he's reasonably been, he always shows up, which I appreciate. He's giving updates, which I appreciate. There's a little bit of tension that the city's getting because of the neighbors. We're going to handle that because we're going to update them and let them know in 30 days, we're going to know which way it's going, it's coming down. And that's what I think I'm hearing, so.
Yeah, we just need a little bit more time. We want to make sure that we explore our options. This is our, first project with the city of Hammond, and so we just want to make sure that we get it right.
Just 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Kevin, is September the 14th okay for you to set for status?
It's fine, yep, and I just want to make sure that the board instructs Mr. Dobers that at that point, we need to know when it's coming down and whether it's foundation and the building or just the building. And then we'll go from there, because I just want to make sure we can report out to the neighborhood what's the timeline. I think, because everybody likes to know kind of time, right? A timeline, like, okay, now I understand it's coming down. And that'll help us, and I'm sure it'll help Mr. Dobers as well.
Okay. Mr. Dobers, so you understand this is a hard deadline for September 14th for an answer
For an
for the
answer.
city?
Yes.
Okay?
And a timeline.
And-
Sure.
Okay.
All right, I recommend that we set this for status till September 14th, 2023.
Okay, I concur.
Thank you.
Letter D, status 6624 Missouri.
As far as this property goes, I completed a few inspections, including a rough framing. Roof was replaced. I believe they are done with their current 90-day rehab agreement, and we'll just need another extension of that agreement, and I'll get with Attorney Smith's office to get that handled.
You want status for status or no?
About 90 days.
90 days.
When we go
Go like about 110
20,
days.
120, give time for the office to get it and get it approved
In
again.
December? 90, so that'd be December
Approved.
sometime? That'll be in December sometime?
Yeah, sometime in
That would be
December.
in
14th,
December time?
right?
Okay, December 14th is okay, Kevin?
December 14th?
Yeah, okay. All right, I recommend to set 6624 Missouri to December 14th, 2023. Right, wrong?
No, I'm just making
sorry.
sure they don't have anything to
Yeah.
add. We
Yeah, I
good?
just want to, Linda made a good point, that usually we set them for status when the rehab agreement comes up.
Oh.
And we'll have a date on rehab agreement. We just have to all remember collectively that this has already been set for December 14th when it comes up on rehab.
Okay,
Okay,
okay. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward. So we're gonna move forward setting the status for December 14th.
okay. All right, I recommend the status for 6624 Missouri to December 14th.
I concur, and I have it in my notes. Letter E, status for 4749 Hickory.
This one, Attorney Smith and I were just discussing, I believe there's a little bit of miscommunication. We had a rehab agreement with, or started with the previous owner, some permits were issued in error, and I do believe we did a second rehab agreement with the new owner, which I believe JK Investments, or JK Elite Investments.
I did too.
Attorney Smith is going to search and see if we can find something. I could swear we did one with,
Did you show that?
I can't think of her last name, it's Joanna Kernita. She's out of Chicago.
Oh, don't look at me, sir.
So,
You're the VI.
yes, so I have a note from June 11 that there was a new owner and new rehab on the property. I just, for some reason, don't have a copy of it. It expires 9/1, which is probably why we're here today. It's set for status on 8/10, so.
Yeah, and the new owner did post bond, does have contractors lined up. Met with her last week, the garage is going to be demolished, it's beyond saving and not financially possible for her, so the garage is going to be removed. And we'll just, again, I'll get with Attorney Smith's office for another 90-day extension. Again, maybe set it for December 14th as well, to give your office time.
Okay,
December 14th.
Okay.
sounds good.
I recommend 4749 Hickory to the status for December 14th.
I concur. Number 11, rental registration hearings. There's one 6606 Harrison, two
Units.
units.
Hi, ma'am, can you state your name, please?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Janice McClarty. I'm here to represent my sister, Melissa Reed, who's the owner of 6606 Harrison Avenue, Hammond, Indiana, 46324. Melissa Reed could not be here today. Melissa Reed has relocated to Arizona. She moved out of her building and relocated to Arizona at the end of December 2021. Also, her tenants moved out of the building the end of December 2021. Melissa was not aware that the building required a building occupancy sticker while the building is unoccupied. And right now, the building is still unoccupied due to renovations.
Have you filled out the vacancy? Was she aware of the vacancy policy to register as a vacant
She
property?
was not aware of that.
Or obtain licensed contractors to perform the renovations.
Oh,
Go
these
ahead. Go ahead,
are
Nick.
small renovations.
Right, well, with it being a two-unit rental property, we still need to make sure that anybody that's working on the property is licensed, especially with her relocating out of state. So anybody that's performing any work on a multi-unit property needs to have a license, apply for permits, call for inspections for any type of work that's being done at the property.
The renovations were painting and adding light fixtures.
That's
And moving to Arizona is a huge financial move, and we weren't aware that painting like the inside of a unit and making light fixtures required that type of certification.
Yeah, any electrical work, needs some,
It wasn't electrical work, it's putting light fixtures,
That's
replacing it.
I understand, it's electrical work, though.
Okay.
You can see if you're tying a new electrical fixture into older wiring that isn't installed properly or isn't grounded, then it could cause an issue, right? But either way, as far as the rental registration is concerned, Ms. Reed has been listed as the property owner since 2011. There was action taken previously in 2016 where Ms. Reed appealed the late fees for owing 2011 through 2015 rental registration fees. That decision was made and applied, and she had paid the amount that was decided and is registered every year since up until 2022. So currently, today, we're here for 2 units for 2022 and 2023. The last registration we have on file is for 2021. There is a full homestead tax exemption being claimed on the property, so we would definitely need to have that adjusted. Yeah, other than that, that's all I really have. As far as an occupancy is concerned, if the property is vacant and the owner intends to have it remain vacant, then we would need to ensure that the vacant property registration is submitted. That's anytime that you have a property which remains unoccupied for 90 days or more, by October 1st, annually, the owner is required to register that property at a rate of $300 until they either sell the property or it changes hands or decide to occupy it.
She's in the process now of reviewing potential tenants.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, that's basically, that we would request is that the homestead tax exemption be removed. So I'll provide that sheet to Ms. Carrier. I'm sorry, your last name was again?
McClarty.
McClarty, I apologize.
Is it possible to be lenient with the homestead exemption at this time?
We have no control over that, ma'am. That's a county requirement where the homestead tax exemption is only able to be afforded and applied to properties in which the owner occupies as their primary residence.
Yeah, so generally, we won't really take any agreement unless we have that form signed, and so that we can submit it to the auditor.
And the homeowner is in Arizona, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
With the property owing for 2 years and being a multi-unit, possibly this case would best be suited for if we forwarded it to Smith or Sixth office, so that way the owner can communicate with their office to negotiate an agreement and work out all the situations that need to be addressed. So it would be my recommendation that we forward this property address to Smith Sixth office to settle the 2 years that are owed for the 2-unit property.
And what office is that again?
Smith Sixth.
I'll give you one of my cards.
Okay.
He's the attorney. They handle all of our.
Are you asking for a waiver of all the fees at this point?
Yes.
We'll take a look at it. And don't worry, nothing is going to, there's no additional fees or fines or anything like that that's going to happen while we're negotiating it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody? Okay, I recommend that we send this to Smith Sursley for selection.
I concur.
So if she has any questions, she can email.
Oh, and also to have the homestead removed. Sorry.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. The meeting is now open to the public.
Uh-oh. Mr. Butt.
Mr. Butt. Are you coming for enconium or no?
Beg your
You
pardon?
want to offer enconiums or? no?
Coniums?
Yeah,
I could be,
okay.
if I knew what that meant. I regret not coming earlier during matters of other department heads, but during the course of the meeting, I recalled that we need to request an extension of the closure of the Holman Avenue Bridge to August 19th. Contractor had difficulty when moving equipment. caused a water main break, significantly extending the closure period. And they have planned a new pedestrian detour route in light of the Norfolk Southern work that's being done. I've coordinated that work with them. I'd be happy to put that in writing after this meeting. But I'd ask for your permission to extend the Holman Avenue Bridge closure by Passion until August 19th, please.
Dean, when was it originally scheduled to be open?
It'd be the 13th was scheduled to be open.
Just
It's a
another
couple
week.
days, yeah.
All right, I recommend approval of the request from Mr. Button to keep Holman and Michigan closed till August 19th.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dean, we'll still have signs and everything out there letting them know that that closure is going to be extended. Might have covered that.
The detour's up.
Okay.
I don't know that we have an end date posted.
Okay,
We normally don't post an end date because
Yeah, because of things happen.
we don't
Right.
know what
Yeah.
could happen. We try, if we have a forecast, like Summer and Columbia, that will have an end date. So,
okay,
yep.
all right. And a motion to adjourn?
I recommend adjournment.
I concur.
Thank you, everybody.